in Hillsborough. Floyd claims that the odds were stacked against Raymond from the beginning, as when the police took him to Hillsborough so that Booker's wife could identify him.
Well, when they first drove Raymond up to the lady's house or business where her husband got killed, well, she said that Raymond wasn't the man when they took him in there. So they took him back out to the car, and the officer stayed with Raymond. The other one went back in and talked to her a while, and then she come out and looked at him, and then she said, yes, that's him.
Before his brother's trial began, Floyd located witnesses who would testify that Raymond was in Bay City, Michigan when Booker was murdered.
I was trying to help defend him and get him out, and I went to Oklahoma to get witnesses, and I went to Arkansas, and I went to Fort Worth to get different people that had worked with him up in Bay City, Michigan, and they come down and testified. One woman he boarded with, 2 men he worked with, and all that. And I went also to the main office in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and while I was gone, Clyde killed an officer right around here in my sister's yard.
Deputy Sheriff Malcolm Davis was shot on January 6, 1933, during Bonnie and Clyde's escape from a police trap at the home of Mrs. Lily McBride. She was a sister of Raymond and Floyd.
Of course, most of these police, like one shot right around here on the next street, my sister's yard. Now they were one coming up behind him and one around the side and several of them inside the house. And he wheeled around and shot him in the stomach, I think, with a sawed-off shotgun, killed him, and opened fire on the other and run him off. Well, I can kind of see through that he's killed to keep from being captured. Of course, you could sum it all up as saying that he was scared. Fear caused that because he's afraid of getting caught. He's afraid of what might happen to him if he did get caught, or he was afraid that they would kill him if he didn't kill them first. But once it gets started, it's a snowball. In other words, it keeps getting bigger, and you can't back up.
Also in January 1933, Raymond's trial began.
Then they started trying Raymond. As he witness stayed here with us. We boarded and roomed 2 of them while the trial was going on, free of charge, and hauled them down in the back. So, of course, on our way back every day, Clyde and Bonnie would intercept us somewhere along the way. We never did know where or when, but they would contact us, and they want to know the details of what took place that day. I got on the stand one day and testified that I had raised Raymond, supported the family and all that, and then this deputy sheriff from Ed Castor from Irvin, he got on the stand and testified that we'd all been in trouble and I'd been in for stealing cars and motorcycles and all that kind of stuff. Well, see, all that kind of stuff will go on your record, that you done this and that when you didn't. I'd never been in jail on just a visit.
Floyd was unhappy with the way Raymond's case was going. So at a clandestine meeting during the trial, he asked Clyde to help get Raymond out of the Hillsborough jail.
Clyde and I, when I tried to get him to go get Raymond out, break him out of the jail at Hillsborough, I told him, I says, Raymond tells me that he looks like he's going to be convicted. And he's being convicted on your charge, so he felt that you should come down and take him out. And he says, well, I'll go down and look the place over. And I told him that the men sat out in under a tree every evening after the court, and they locked him up. I told him he'd go out and sit on that tree in the summertime and lean back again in a chair and read his magazine. I told him he's unarmed. The only thing he's got the keys to the jail. And I says, oh, I've drove up there a time or two myself, and he didn't pay too much mind to me. I told him just drive in there and take the keys and go in and unlock and take Raymond. So he went next day. See, he was meeting us on the road every day. We'd make this trip down and ask us what took place during that day. So he told me the next day, he said, well, it looks like it's a little bit too risky to drive up in there and do that. But he says, I'll tell you what I'll do. He says, I got a bank down here in East Texas, Mineola, Texas. He says, if you'll go with me and help me rob it, I'll give you all the money, and we'll give it to his attorney, and if he gets convicted, then he can appeal the case. And so I told him, all right. And I drove my car down in East Texas and parked it. I got in a car with them. We went around and run roads, getaway roads, went over and looked the bank over. And just before we was going to rob it, well, I went in the bank to see how things were, how many's in there. And they were parked down the street a little way. So I come back and got in the car. I told him, I said, well, there's only so many people in there. There's so many customers and this and that. He said, I don't think we've enough of us to rob that bank. It's too big, too many people. I told him I could rob it myself if I could get in there and mask or wouldn't have to show my face. And our plans were for him to go in first and me come in behind where I could get a mask on. So he kept talking about going and getting somebody else. I told him, no, I wouldn't rob it, no gang. I don't want to be involved with them. And so he said, well, I don't think we should rob. I told him, well, you don't? Well, just forget about it and take me back and get in my car. So we went back and got in the car, and I told him, I said, don't never say anything about it. Keep your mouth shut. So he did.
The jury found Raymond guilty as charged.
After they tried him, I think he wound up with 365 years. Before they transferred him out of Hillsborough jail, well, he tried to escape. He went across the street and took a man's car and got out of town a little ways and had a flat. The police run up on him. He ran out across the field, but he's unarmed. They caught him. Then they transferred him up to Dallas, and he stayed here in Dallas till they got ready to transfer him to prison.
As Raymond began serving his sentence, Clyde's brother Buck, recently released from prison himself, and his wife Blanche rendezvoused with Clyde, Bonnie, and W.D. Jones in Joplin, Missouri. On April 13, 1933, while the fugitives were relaxing in their apartment, the building was surrounded by police. Before the officers could close in, however, the Barrow Gang shot their way out of the ambush. Constable J.W. Harriman and Detective Harry McGinnis were killed in the hail of gunfire.
I think the picture show dramatized it in a manner that kind of glorified them in a way. And I heard a lot of people say that they felt sorry for Clyde and Bonnie. They kind of sympathized with them. In other words, it didn't matter about them shooting them people, all right. They just overlooked that part, but in the way the picture show showed them ambushing them, well, a lot of people kind of felt sorry for him and some kind of attraction for him.
In June 1933, there was another shootout, this time near Alma, Texas, and Marshal Henry D. Humphrey was killed. The manhunt for the Barrow Gang intensified, and Buck's luck ran out in July. Already wounded in a gun battle in Platte City, Missouri, he was fatally shot in Iowa when police discovered the gang's hideout. Clyde was also wounded, but he, Bonnie, and W.D. Jones got away. The surviving members of the Barrow Gang were recuperating when Floyd got in touch with Clyde.
See, I met him on the country road, and we had numbers. In other words, it'd be number 1, 2, 3 in different places. Well, if I was in your presence and say, Clyde, Raymond, Bonnie's here, and I say, well, I'll see you next week or some certain date at number so-and-so. Well, they knew where I meant, or they'd say number so-and-so, and I'd know, but nobody else would. But if we'd lose contact, he'd either stop down at his mother's filling station or stop by here. And most time it'd stop at the filling station because somebody always out, waiting on cars or they're ready. And he would throw out a note, or his mother would come up here and get me to take him out to see him. See, that'd reestablish our contacts.
In August 1933, Raymond was transferred to Eastham Prison Farm, the same work farm where Clyde had sacrificed his toes. Before long, Raymond had concocted an escape plan.
One day we were down visiting Raymond, and Raymond had a Monel ring that he had made in prison, and he showed me this ring. And he told me that a man would be up to my house pretty soon wearing that ring. If he was all right. While we was talking, see, they is in a little room at the end of a bunkhouse for